today were really around some of the factors that contribute to some of the improved performance we've seen in East Ayrshire. But it's important to recognise that that's multifaceted, and there's a number of other initiatives that are ongoing within the community that contributed to creating some additional capacity within services to enable the success of the initiatives that we'll speak about today. I think it's important to highlight this complex system out there. Isla, next slide, please. So since integration, East Ayrshire's work are focused on very much doing the right thing by people and very much looking at the best ways. So very much, I think, thinking about the focus within East Ayrshire, we very much aimed at delivering care at home or as homely setting as possible. Therefore, the concept of home first is a principle of always seeking to allow people to remain at home or return home as a first intention. Home first is not a single pathway, but an approach or a principle which is embedded right across the partnership. Today, we're going to focus on some key initiatives which help to return people home or to the most appropriate care setting possible. And we're going to finish, and Anne's going to outline a story about Muriel, one of the people that we've been working with. So I'm going to pass over to Anne now.
My name's Anne Craig. I'm the team manager at South Hospital, and today I'm going to be talking at the moment about early referral. So really, it's recognised that referring patients for early social work intervention has significant benefits to the discharge planning process. This has been key to success in reducing the time that a person remains in hospital after they're fit for discharge. And also the benefits to the patient as they're less likely to have lost the ability to manage their lives, particularly older adults post-discharge, and they also require less assistance as their recovery continues. East Partnership staff has promoted the use of early referral with our health colleagues over the past few years, and we're able to evidence really positive outcomes. Key to this at Crosshouse Hospital has been attendance at the twice-daily huddles, morning and afternoon, where specific patient information is exchanged with our health colleagues. In addition to this, we have a dedicated time every day to meet with our discharge colleagues. This is to facilitate any specific information exchange that is required but not appropriate for the main hospital huddles. The huddles on the hub are attended by staff from the social work team based at Crosshouse Hospital. We promoted the early referral model within all the hospitals in the NHS Ayrshire and area, both acute and the community hospitals. We also attend specific ward meetings to encourage multidisciplinary decision making. Daily within an ACE practitioners and combined assessment unit huddle at noon. And key to that success have been engaging with the support received from a quality improvement team from NHS Ayrshire. The main social work team is based in Crosshouse Hospital, but we actively encourage NHS colleagues to contact us about cases where we will happily give advice or support and indeed transfer that into an early referral for us to support from. It may not be that a patient requires assistance from social work. It may be more appropriate for our EIT colleagues to become involved with that patient to support early discharge to the community. And at this point, I'll pass you back to Craig, who will talk about our enhanced intermediate care team model in East Ayrshire. Craig.
Thanks, Anne. Isla, next slide, please. So, talk now about enhanced intermediate care team, or ICT. And the intermediate care team has been in existence for over 7 years. Some additional funding that was put in place in November 2018, and that was to build upon the work that was already being done across all the across the Ayrshire partnerships. And really, that's about looking at providing. So ICT are looking at alternative to admission and facilitating early discharges. So that's delivered through intermediate care and rehabilitation in the community within care homes also. And the enhanced part of ICT is enabling that care to be delivered across 7 days, 9 to 5. Now, a single referral route for all ICT and community rehab services, whereas previously they were kept separate. The most appropriate service and individuals will respond following triage involving different disciplines, and urgent care can be put in place within a couple of hours to keep people at home. There's regular liaison with acute staff, and there is an ICT presence alongside the social work staff within the hospitals, and that helps to achieve an integrated care at home and ICT structure. Next slide, please. In terms of some outcomes from enhanced ICT since implementation November 2018, that's led to improved performance around prevention of admission, and certainly highlights the improvements in preventive admissions. And certainly in October, those were sitting about 20 a month, and in at the end of March 2019, that's risen to almost 70 each month.
East Ayrshire has a discharge approach which we commonly refer to as D2A. In East Ayrshire, in terms of discharge process, we work in the premise that home first being the best option for people who are able to be discharged from hospital. However, some patients are unable to return home at the point of being fit for discharge. Some of these patients may be cognitively challenged or have complex social issues. This group of patients have the potential to have the longest hospital stays. In this instance, patients are allocated a social worker, and that social worker manages their discharge. With home first not an option at that point, it may be a patient requiring to access a care home placement. There could be many reasons why home first is not an option at that time, but we now promote that a care home is no longer for life. We have a vision that at the end result, bearing in mind risk and rights, is that the best place for a person to live is their own home in their own community, surrounded by people and places they know. It's becoming clear that hospital environment is not conducive to assessment for community living, be it in their own homes or in a care placement. Ayrshire put in place this discharge to assess model, which is essentially moving a person to the preferred choice of care placement. A 2-week time frame is in place for the assessment by the social worker to be undertaken and presented to the resource allocation group for consideration of funding. There is no charge to the residents during this time, and East Ayrshire Partnership funds the whole placement. The benefit is that at the end of the assessment, there will be a clearer outcome for the residents and their families. Either that, a care home placement needs to continue, and it may be possible for the residents to return to the community at some point in the future. Can I have the next slide, please, Isla? This slide gives some detail on the cost of each partnership, but also provides insight into the cost of the bed days saved. The side issue, although not a principal outcome for this initiative, this also supports patient flow within it. You can have the next one, please, Isle. Thank you. We also recently have started an adult with incapacity process. In December 2018, East Partnership, in conjunction with North and South Partnership, commenced a pilot project to move patients from an NHS facility within Ayrshire and Inverclyde Health Board area to a care placement. The basis of which was an NHS commissioned purchased care home placement. These patients had been assessed as unable to make welfare decisions for themselves, but no longer needed to be a hospital inpatient whilst awaiting a formal order. And I'm talking in that sense a welfare guardianship or an intervention order to move a patient from an NHS bed. And that's so that a care placement could be arranged for them. At that point, a dedicated mental health officer was attached to the social work team here at Cross House, and the turnaround time for patients to leave hospital on an interim welfare guardianship dramatically reduced the time a patient remained delayed in hospital. This pilot came to an end in March 2019. North and South partnerships did not continue. The East Partnership recognised the benefits to our patients and decided it would continue to operate the AWI bed availability arrangement on the basis of right care in the right place at the right time. Since the 1st of April 2019 until the 31st of July 19, there is a total bed days saved of 674 beds at a cost of £174.50 per day, and I'm told the total of that is £68,862.36. Of those 18 patients, the outcomes were: patients passed away, 5 people's cognitive abilities improved so much that 3 no longer required formal orders, 1 person has gone home, and 1 person transferred to a 13ZA who asked to remain a resident care home, although still cognitively frail. 7 people have orders going through the court system at the moment. 2 will be heard this week, and 4 people have required full guardianship orders. All of those patients would have remained in hospital until a formal order was in place, be that an interim or indeed a full guardianship. They've benefited from being in a homely environment and out with a clinical area for the rest. So I'll pass you back to Craig to discuss service demand.
Okay, next slide, please, Isla. We're nearly there. Thank you. So just wanted to talk to this slide very, very briefly, just to highlight the fact that whilst there's been a number of initiatives that have been put in place to achieve more rapid discharge from hospital, it may be assumed that that would lead to increase in service demand within the community, but actually through a number of other initiatives we haven't got time to go through in detail just now. We've actually managed to reduce the amount of usage of care homes and the number of people receiving care at home. So there's a range of other measures highlighting again the system-wide nature of the initiatives and the approach. So I'm just going to pass you on just to the last slide, and I'm just going to talk you through Muriel to finish up.
That's a story about a lady who went through an AWI process. Muriel's 76 and she has a medical history of arthritis, myelopathy, hypotension, diabetes type 2, acute kidney infection, leg ulcers, eczema, umbilical hernia, urinary tract, fissures, and poor circulation. She came into Cross House on the 9th of March 19 with many, many different reasons for admission. Whilst in hospital, Muriel continued to mentally and physically deteriorate. She became immobile, doubly incontinent, displayed poor fitting bands, and required assistance eating and drinking. After discussion with our family, medical staff submitted a referral to the hospital social work team, not on an early referral basis, I have to say, for assessment purposes, a recommendation attached for 24-hour nursing care. Muriel was very confused and disorientated, and a decision was made that she lacked capacity to make her own decisions about welfare. There was no legal proxy, there was no attorney, and using the AWI process, we discharged Muriel to a local nursing home, which was chosen by her family into an AWI-funded bed. We reviewed Muriel's placement on June 12th, and to determine her cognitive functioning about really require a welfare or financial guardianship. But we actually found that that was not required. Her cognitive abilities had improved immensely. We did a further review on the 19th of July, and again found the same outcomes, that Muriel had settled very well. She was in receipt of excellent nursing care, a medication regime, and her dietary intake had improved beyond belief. She's positive relationships with the staff and fellow residents and is much brighter in mood. She participated fully in her review meetings, but she does remain reliant on staff for activities of daily living, including hoisting for all swimming stairs, treatment and dressing of her legs, and treatment of pressure areas. Muriel advised in the last meeting that she's happy with her placement and grateful for the standard of care she receives. She added she wishes to remain residing there for the foreseeable future. Her son and daughter-in-law are supportive of her decision and will be in agreement with regard to the standard of care provision. All in all, it was a really good outcome for Muriel, doing the right thing for the patient at the right time.
Okay, thank you very much. And
thank Craig again for the presentation and the insight into East Ayrshire. I take a slightly different tack in terms of Home First and Inverclyde, and really looking at the principles behind Home First and the methodology. And it's really acknowledging that each partnership, each locality, each area will have different resources, different needs, demands, and really what we have to do is apply the Home First principles, methodology to our local areas and take the local circumstances into account. So I'm not trying to say to people, this is how you need to do this, because in Inverclyde we have particular circumstances. Really is the principles and underlying ideas behind this. So really when we talk about Home First, what we've been doing is on the basis of the perhaps received wisdom is that people are better supported and they also definitely achieve better outcomes when they're living in their own home or community. And in Inverclyde we acknowledge that some people require to live in long-term care beds, long-term care homes, and these long-term care homes are resources in communities and they are part of the community, and we take that and acknowledge that. So it's really about making sure that we have the person at the centre and that their outcomes are the focus of all our work. Next slide. There are no shortcuts with this. In Inverclyde, we've been working on a Home First approach for 4.5 years. That's when we did our first workshop with colleagues from Acute. And what we realised is that although there are short-term gains you can make, some small plans, some small changes you can make to achieve improvements, really there is no one big action that will achieve successful delayed discharge. A combination of work and effort and individual input into the process. So the Inverclyde Home Care Vision, Home First Vision, is really look to plan health and social care around the individual, right, and the focus is remaining in their own home. That people try to admission to hospital, trying to avoid hospital admission as well as discharge back home. We want to ensure that within the home is the first and best option, and the majority of people are discharges are back to their own home. And you'll find that in your area, the vast majority of older patients failed with dementia will go back home, and it's really about ensuring we can do that smoothly and as safely as possible. We're trying to reduce the number of people identified with a delayed discharge, that's a target. We're also looking at bed days lost, and I think we've been quite successful in reducing the bed days lost through our approach. We're looking to discharge all service users within 72 hours of being fit for discharge, and that's a target we maintain. We achieved that with over 93% of our discharges from the hospital. And that's in the main, we're discharging people as they become fit. We also want to ensure that staff are empowered to make decisions. They can try out new ways to ensure that discharge can go ahead, and we encourage that there's real crossover between acute and services. We also work with all stakeholders. I mentioned long-term care and care homes, and it's really about making sure that third sector is involved in this. It is an old-fashioned social approach, a holistic approach, but it is really looking at how we can actually wrap services around people in the hospital so they can be touched. Okay. So in Inverclyde, we have some principles, and I think this is really important that we have to place the service user and the centre of the work we do. We focus it on the social work team as being the centre of the work, or a home care team, or hospital ward. This doesn't work. This will not work for people. And really what we also have added to this is we've got to get it right first time. We're not in favour of moving people to maybe one or two places before they get settled in their final destination. So we're not looking at trying to move people into interim care placements if we can at all do that. We also want to promote well-being, enablement and independence, and that's focused around self-directed support, and also just around the focus we have is about making people able to operate at an optimum level, no matter where their destination is, whether it is to a care home or to their own home. We want to promote flexibility, choice and control of care and support, and that is a real challenge for us because we're trying to promote that for the service user and carers in what can be very tight timescales to try and move people on. We need to ensure we tackle health inequalities, and we need to make sure that we get this right first time for everybody, and that's the wider agenda within the partnership. So, if you like, things we should be with Home First. We need to be brave about it. As I wrote this as a review from one of my favourite football managers, that was a big job, but mountains are there to be climbed. And I think that's what it is. We sometimes see there's pressures and problems and think, they're too big, we can't solve them. But I think we just need to have that determination to do that. We should go back to the document, read it, apply it to where you work and see whether you can actually meet some of the criteria around the Home First approach. It's not about numbers, right? We need to focus on the individual and the views that if you get it right for one person, then you start getting it right for everybody. There's a cultural change, and the cultural change takes time. A cultural change can be within the social work teams, care at home teams as well. So we need to realise that it doesn't happen quickly, that we need to move. We have to take patience about that, realise the cultural changes will occur. As soon as people see that it is working for individual patients, it works for their next patient or the next service user. So we're looking at quick, smart improvements, whether we call them text of change or PDSA, whatever we call them, but it is looking at small improvements to make a big difference. And also what I advise is that we need to look at a ward-by-ward approach, especially when we've got large hospitals. You're not going to change the whole hospital at once, but focus on a ward, focus maybe on a problematic ward, with a consultant, and work with them. As soon as the wards get it right, all the wards will follow. We also need to use existing processes and resources. It's really important. Quite often, in the past, we've had discharge processes, and when there's a crisis or winter pressures, to go to one side. Now, last winter, we worked hard with acute colleagues, kept the processes, and it really made for a smoother winter than what we were for. Okay. Again, Home First is about the greatest opportunities to live in their own homes. They should not be assessed for future care in a hospital environment. We try and make sure we move out of the hospital environment or prevent them going to hospital in the first place. One of the things we do look at in the community is anticipated care plans, so that if somebody is failing, we actually perhaps have agreed plans to look at the long-term care placement rather than a hospital admission. We also work around step up, which is quite successful for us. We also need to make sure that professionals shouldn't really make decisions when somebody's in crisis. And I think that's a key element we sometimes forget. What we need to do is make sure that we're making a decision when they're at an optimum of the health. We also really have to, in the Home First principle, as discharge planning starts in the community. I mentioned anticipated care plans. And these are some things we're looking at, working with our GP partners in primary care, trying to say, how do we ensure if somebody is admitted to hospital, they can come back out as quickly as possible. Okay, so some of the elements we're doing around Home First is, East Ayrshire mentioned this, is early referral. As soon as somebody's admitted to one of the wards, we want notification to the social department. To start looking at the background, start looking if there's any assessment required, and who's best placed to do that assessment. Service users, and we track them through their hospital journey, so we know which ward they're in, we know what level of stage of treatment it is, and the behavioural intake, so we actually start the assessment process and move on to the discharge planning. And I think the discharge planning, just to be correct, we've done an admission, and we need to look at, really important to have estimated discharge dates. Now that's one of the cultural changes we've made, where wards and some consultants are reluctant to do that, but what we're saying is it is an estimated date, it doesn't need to be held down as in stone, as it were. We're also looking at some of the changes around delegated discharge, so that we're looking at, because we don't have a consultant full-time at local hospital yet, and so what we are looking at is having these plans, so we're aware that, for example, the patient is likely to be fit next week, or we can actually start the discharge, the actual practice and process of discharge this week in order to be ready for them to become fit. Communication, I know that's another seminar, but it's vital. We have, when I arrived in Inverclyde 5 years ago, there was a group where the team leader for the discharge team met with hospital ward managers, and as a great example, once a week, and I think some of the work around the huddle and some of the work we're doing around the frailty hub is based on that, where taking decisions about discharge are meeting weekly and planning the discharges. We also involve service users and care as much as we can in decision making. That way we can guarantee, always guarantee, that the discharge will be successful, support of the family. And also what we do is focus on discharge to home. And we also can discuss with AWI, but what we do is identify that early, and we also look at 30 days early as possible to avoid days due to that. Getting right, the key things about these sounds the planning, and I think these are the areas we've got for our scheduled care. I'm going to go through each one of them. This is really the themes we're working on with acute over the next probably 12 to 18 months to develop the success we have with Home First. So some of the whole system approach has to do with acute and community. Care and planning needs to be person-centred, and they have to be based on where the person is. Discharge planning starts in the community. Cultural change. It takes time to show improvement. As I say, we've been focusing on this for 4.5 years, and we feel we have sustained improvement now, but we know there's still a lot of work to carry on to do. What we need to do, as I said previously, is start with a ward or a consultant, or it might be with a social work team, and focus on a team that's going to be actually positive about this and willing to change. If you get it correct at that level, it will spread out to another one is really looking at how we develop community resources. One of the things we have done in Inverclyde is develop a social work team in the community, because they're the teams that receive people on discharge, and you can't just put all your resources in and neglect the community. The community has to have level, equal support, so people can come home, safe discharge, and get it right the first time.
Today, we're really around some of the factors that contribute to some of the improved performance we've seen in East Ayrshire. But it's important to recognise